On December 8th, 1940, 9-2 Washington welcomed 8-3 Chicago to Griffin Stadium in what would prove to be the greatest beatdown in NFL history. Bill Osmanski got it started going 68 yards around left end on the first play of scrimmage. Washington holds the Bears down for 2 plays, but the Bears again gained the edge on 3rd down. 4 Bear players had at least 60 yards rushing in this game. Bill Osmanski, who you saw on the first touchdown, Harry Clark, Ray Nolting, and Joe Maniaci. In total, Chicago gained 381 yards rushing and had 7 TDs on the ground on 53 carries. Now that is a fine day running the football. The Bears had lost to Washington 7-3 just 3 weeks earlier, but Hallis and his staff were certain they had a game plan that would beat Washington if only they didn't change their defense. It appears they never did. And you can see that Chicago is chewing the field right down, which might lead you to think, how the heck did they get to 73 points? But as you will see, the second half was somehow more of a disaster than the first half for Washington, and things are not looking real great at this point if you're a fan of the DC team. So the Bears are marching their way right down the field on a long drive here, and you can see that pretty much every run is getting somewhere. Even the pass sprinkled in for a little bit of flavor takes it right down to the 1. Luckman tries the right halfback. Didn't quite get there. Try the other side off tackle. That didn't work either. So Sid, who thought he had a touchdown there, takes it himself on the quarterback sneak. And it is now 14-0 Chicago. And the Bears embark on a 1-play, 42-yard touchdown drive. That play being a 42-yard scamper around the left end by Joe Maniaci. 21-0 Chicago. And here is where the interception parade begins. Seven different Bears picked off passes, led by 2 by Joe Maniaci. It just seemed as the game wore on that Washington could hold them down for a play here, play there, but they just couldn't hold them down, even 3 plays in a row. So you can get a good stop on 1st down. But even a busted play like this one somehow works out. Maybe it's that wise beyond his years second-year quarterback Sid Luckman, who made his first Pro Bowl in 1940 and would be first-team All-Pro the next 4 years, was smart enough to know where everybody, all his receivers, were on the field. After a couple of runs go nowhere, the Bears really did kind of the mirror image of what Washington just did. Sid Luckman actually came up with the longest Bear pass play of the day right here, hitting Bob Swisher for 35 yards down the right sideline. With the pass established, the Bears were able to run around left end. But the runs up the middle were no longer as wide open as they had been in the first quarter. Of course, Washington quarterbacks gave plenty of chances to the Bears to pick the passes off. In the second quarter, Washington did not give up 3 touchdowns. That doesn't seem notable except for the fact that they gave up at least 3 in every other quarter. The second quarter was more typical of a game with a more typical score than 73-0. And you can see the defensive effort is high. Washington still thought they had an outside chance of winning, and they tried as hard as they could. The third quarter, as we shall see, was an unmitigated disaster. Watch what Sid Luckman does on this here play, chucking it up deep to Ken Kavanaugh. In his rookie season with the Bears, Kavanaugh played for the Bears all the way to 1950, catching 50 regular season touchdowns, that one you just saw. Chicago had a one-play scoring drive earlier in the game. Here's a two-play scoring drive, with both plays runs by back Ray Nolting. He caps off this brief drive by punching it in from 23 yards out. It's all Bears. The wheels are falling off, and they're falling off rapidly. This quarter was the worst of the game for the Bears, or for Washington. Here, George McAfee, the fine punt returner, takes a pick and weaves his way 34 yards for a pick six. Here's Chicago's center, the great Hall of Famer Bulldog Turner, taking a pick 24 yards for the TD. Punt seems like a dangerous play when you're up by 8 touchdowns. Have to think about the number there. Hey, that's the end of the third quarter, in which Washington gave up 4 touchdowns. Unfortunately, 15 more minutes of misery remain. In the fourth quarter, the Bears probed the line, which has temporarily stiffened. This game is being broadcast nationwide on radio by the Mutual Broadcasting System, a first time for the NFL. Washington again fails to hold the line for 3 plays in a row as Harry Clark picks up a first down. After Washington beat the Bears 7-3 a few weeks earlier, Redskin owner George Preston Marshall gave a series of interviews stating that the Bears quit when the going got tough and were a bunch of crybabies. George Halas of the Bears cut out every newspaper article he could find and prominently displayed them on the locker room bulletin boards, then reminded the team in a speech he gave before the game. Harry Clark sweeps right in for the Bears' 9th TD of the game. That's a quality 44-yard run. 60-0 Bears. That especially inept Washington fumble leads to another one-play Bears scoring drive as backup Gary Famigliette got his TD for the day. After extra points in general, the ball would be kicked into the crowd and lost. And the NFL had only brought 10 balls to the game, and they were down to the 10th and final ball. And holy cow, it's another interception. You'll notice this late in the game that the penalties have picked up. And that's because both teams are playing their backups. The benches are empty at this point. But even the Bears' backups, it turns out, are better as they worm their way down the field again. Sure, Washington's backups, hey, I got a sack in the NFL championship game. Yeah, that's true, but you lost 73-0. You can also start to see the debris forming on the field as various paper products were starting to filter their way down. The fans are like, you gotta be kidding me. And maybe that last fumble was more than they could take. That's some bad tackling. And now you can really see the debris forming in that corner of the end zone there. And the Bears backups are like, hey, this is my chance to score. So at this point, it almost looks like snow, but it isn't. All that debris. And finally, as they get down inside the 1, the Bears will complete the scoring for the day as Harry Clark, the only player to score 2 TDs in this game, punches it in from the 1. The conversion pass is swatted away, leaving the score at 73-0 Bears. That's about all that we have left. And here she comes. With the backups running the old lateral play nonetheless. Holding on the return. The 73 points is still the most scored by any NFL team, regular or postseason. The margin of victory, 73 points, is the largest in any major American team sport. The NBA record is 68 points. The Chicago Bears played perfect football for a greater percentage of the official hour than any team since.
Didn't expect to lose.
On December 5th, 1940, the Bears left the Windy City on a train bound for the nation's capital. 3 weeks earlier, the Bears had lost to the Redskins 7-3 in a game that provoked bad feelings. This time, the two teams would meet for the NFL championship.
On the train down to Washington, the boys usually played bridge or joked around. Every single player had his playbook out. Every single player had his heart set on playing this game. It was like going to war, really. It's a war within a war.
Redskins owner George Marshall made things worse by calling the Bears quitters.
And Hallis went out and had a lot of those big headlines, and he had those stuck all over the dressing room. Had all this about being crybabies in the first half ball club. And Hallis didn't have to give us the pep talk.
Hallis was enraged. So was his team. For the next 3 hours, the Bears beat the Redskins like no team has ever been beaten, starting on the game's second play.
The captain of the team was George Wilson, our right end. He came all the way over to the left sideline, and as the 2 Redskin players were coming, he hit them with probably the hardest block I think I may have ever seen. He knocked them up in the air. In fact, when the game was over, George's wife said, "My goodness gracious, who was that man that hit those people?" He didn't even know. My husband couldn't do that. Nobody hits people that hard, especially George might. Well, it was just the block of all blocks.
The Bears played the game of all games, scoring 21 points in the game's first 13 minutes, and spent most of the second half body-slamming future Hall of Fame quarterback Sammy Baugh.
This is the best passer probably the NFL had ever had. For this to happen is quite a remarkable thing, and my job is to rush the passer, mainly as a defensive end. In the event that the fullback swung out my way, I was to drop off and cover.
Hampton Poole's interception return for a touchdown started the second half scoring frenzy. In all, 10 Bears would score 11 touchdowns, including this gem by Bulldog Turner.
Back in those days, now you kick the ball, and when you kick the ball in the crowd, that was the end of the ball. You wouldn't get it back. Well, the officials get us together and say, now if either team scores this last 3 minutes, you're going to have to run, because if you kick it and you go in the crowd, we got no more balls to play with.
Marshall's humiliation was made complete when at 60-0, the public address announcer reminded Redskin fans that season tickets would go on sale Monday.
Well, there was a lot of booing and a lot of disgruntled fans.
It was the T formation with a man in motion at its best.
It was also the most lopsided score in NFL history.